To remove and install the front drive shaft on your Ranger XD 1500, follow these steps. Park the vehicle on a flat, level surface, ensure it is in park, and remove the key. Next, remove the wheel from the vehicle. Begin by loosening the lug nuts while the vehicle is on the ground, but do not remove at this time. Then, safely elevate the vehicle. Reference your owner's manual for proper lifting techniques. Once safely elevated, remove and retain the lug nuts and set aside. Then, remove the wheel and set aside. Now, remove the cotter pin. Then, with the aid of an assistant, have them press the brakes and firmly hold the steering wheel while loosening the castle nut. Remove the nut and cone washer from the front wheel hub assembly. Then, remove the front brake caliper and brake scraper. Do not hang the caliper by the brake line. Use wire to hang the caliper to prevent damage to the brake line. Then, remove and discard the upper ball joint pinch bolt. Then, remove the lower ball joint nut. Now, remove the tie rod nut and separate. Next, using a soft-faced hammer, lightly tap on the bearing carrier while removing the upper control arm. Then, separate the bearing carrier from the lower control arm. Remove the drive shaft from the front bearing carrier. Then, with a short, sharp jerk, remove the drive shaft from the front gear case. Next, clean the anti-seize off the axle splines using a clean shop rag. Then, inspect the threads and splines on the axle for nicks or burrs and replace if needed. Continue by inspecting the CV boots to ensure there are no cuts, wear, or damage, and replace if needed. If reusing the axle, remove and discard the circlip. Then, install a new compression ring in the groove on the end of the axle and ensure it is fully seated. To reinstall the axle, put anti-seize lubricant on the gear case end splines of the drive shaft. Now, align the splines on the drive shaft with the front gear case and reinstall the drive shaft. Use a rubber mallet to tap on the outboard end of the drive shaft if necessary. Then, perform a push-pull test on the axle to make sure the retaining ring is locked into the gear case. A push-pull test on the drive shaft is critical to make sure the snap ring is fully engaged. If this step is not performed, the drive shaft could come out of the gear case. Next, put the drive shaft into the front bearing carrier. Then, put the upper and lower ball joint ends into the front of the bearing carrier. Now, torque the upper and lower ball joint nuts to specification. Now, install the tie rod and torque the nut to specification. Next, install the front wheel hub assembly, cone washer, and wheel hub nut. Install the wheel hub cone washer with the domed side out. Now, install the rotor onto the wheel hub assembly. Then, install the caliper onto the knuckle with new mounting fasteners. Torque to specification. Then, with the aid of an assistant, press the brakes and firmly hold the steering wheel while torquing the wheel nut hub to specification. Next, install a new cotter pin and bend the ends of the cotter pin in opposite directions. If necessary, slightly tighten the nut to align the cotter pin holes. Next, install the wheel and lug nuts and tighten until fully seated. Then, rotate the wheel and check for smooth operation. Once complete, safely lower the vehicle until the tires begin to touch the ground. This will help keep the wheel in place when torquing. Once lowered, torque the lug nuts to specification in a crisscross pattern. Finally, lower the vehicle completely to the ground. For more information, see your authorized Polaris dealer or visit Polaris.com.